We would now like to resume our program after the preceding technical difficulties. Okay, I am going to do something not great, but I want to... Don't panic if this takes a couple days to figure out, but I'm going to give you an example of every single one of these things in one problem.
Do we have to write this down?
Yep, and there's going to be a trick to it. There's going to be a part that's going to be a bit of a trick question.
Great.
Okay, so, are you ready?
There is no chair.
Unlike that physics test.
Unlike that physics test, yes. Okay, y equals 3 sine. One sec here.
So was that 3 times?
Yes,
sine?
3 times sine. Okay, now hang on a sec. I need
Do you
to...
use calculators on this problem?
Some of them yes, some of them no. It'll depend. I'm going to do some that you don't need, where you don't need it. Hang on. Yeah. Okay, how do you graph without a calculator 3 sine pi over 2x minus pi plus 3?
The sine of pi over 2 is 1.
Doesn't matter.
Oh.
That's actually not helpful, but I'm glad you went there. I'm thrilled you know that. I didn't mean for that to be like, crush your hopes and dreams, but... yes?
I know that it's good. The axis of whatever is at +3 on the y-axis.
Yes, very good.
Ow!
Try not to injure yourself
Student
thinking...
whose name I shall not mention that hurts.
I thought you just injured yourself thinking.
You can say the first name.
Okay, first thing two things to notice quick because they're easiest. Ramsey got the first one. The sinusoidal axis is at +3. So instead of bouncing around the x-axis, this thing is going to bounce above and below the line y equals 3. So I'm going to put that in the middle. Now from the horizontal line y equals 3, it's going to go up and down 3 units. That's what this 3 will do. Should not have used the same number there. I apologize.
Okay.
Deal. So I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's got this sinusoidal axis. Now, there's 2 things going on here. And here's a way in which this is a little bit of a trick question. Looking at that over there, who can tell me what the value is for C, for my phase shift?
Pi.
Nope. Fell for the trick.
Sine pi.
It's
Stop. That's just random.
Negative sine
X
pi.
pi.
Negative pi.
x minus what is pi?
I'm going to rewrite this a little bit. I'm going to make this 3 sine. I'm going to factor pi over 2 out of each of these terms. I'm going to factor pi over 2 out of each of these terms. Pi over 2 times x is pi over 2x. Pi over 2 times blank would get me pi. What would you multiply pi over 2?
Pi.
Pi over 2 times, close.
Pi squared over 2.
Stop, wow. Pi over 2 times blank equals pi.
2 pi.
No, that would be 2 pi squared.
Wait,
It would be
2
pi
over
squared.
1.
No,
2 over 1, she is correct. Times 2 over 1. The only thing that happens between pi over 2 and pi is that the half goes away. So that must be multiplying by 2. So it's x. So the phase shift, I said, is that number that is snuggled up in the parentheses with x. That's where you get your counterintuitive left and right switch. But it has to be snuggled up with just x. X by itself. So you have to have 1x to know the phase shift. Okay, notice the 2 sets of parentheses here, and notice the 1 set of parentheses here. Notice that b is outside the parentheses here. So if you're given a problem like this, you know what b is. B is pi over 2. You don't know what c is until you factor b out of both terms. Okay? So now, I'm actually going to write this down a bit. A equals 3, that's my amplitude. B is pi over 2. C is negative 2. D is 3. All we've put graphed in, taken into account now is the 3. Okay. Period. This is the fun part. Period. Over here I said B was 2 pi over period. With a little bit of algebraic rearranging, I could make it period equals 2 pi over B. So I'm going to write that second part here now. Period equals 2 pi over B. What's B?
2 pi over, no, pi over 2.
B is pi over 2. This is actually a little bit easier. If you remember this formula, okay, then figuring out the period from the equation is easier. The hard part is, hey, I'd like it to be this period, figure out B for me. That's a little bit different. But this one, the period is going to be 2 pi divided by pi over 2. When you're dividing by a fraction, that's the same as multiplying by? It's reciprocal. And Johannes, I think you just said it. So this equals 2 pi times 2 over pi. The pi's cancel. What are we left with?
4.
4. So this sine wave is going to finish its business in a total of 4 units. Its business being going up, then to the middle, then down, then back to the middle. That's what sine waves do. That's what they are all about. So I need to go out to 4. Well, here's a little bit of a weird one though. I need to go out to 4, but what's my phase shift? How far left or right is this thing moved?
-2. -2.
Negative 2. Now is that going to move it to the right or to the left?
Left.
It's
No,
counterintuitive.
It's right. It's negative.
Yeah, it's negative, so it's negative shift, so it's actually going to go right. Phase shift is counterintuitive. That means the opposite of what you would immediately think. If you think negative, you should think left. Phase shift is the opposite of that. Remember all that with K and H last year?
God, that was annoying.
Okay, so I need to go out to 6, and I need to start
Where are you getting 6?
4 plus 2. I need to take, normally, okay, let me go back a sec. The period is 4, correct?
Right.
So this thing would go from 0 to 4.
Okay.
We got this phase shift.
Uh,
Everything's moved 2 to the right, so I'm going to make it go from 2 to 6 instead.
Yeah, I understand it, but it might take a couple days to actually remember all the plan.
Well, the advantage to the homework for the homework tonight, and I've got to go over cosine very quickly. For the homework tonight, I think for the next 2 nights you don't get all 4 at once. You get like A and B, or you get like B and D, or you get like just B or just D. You know what I mean, Johannes?
Yeah.
So you're not going to get all 4 of these in one for a couple nights, but I like to throw you in the deep end. Okay, so a sine wave, this sine wave will start here at 2, it will end here at 6. Now, these things are always divided up into 4 pieces. I apologize that I had to erase the original sine wave.
Why this one started 2?
Our phase shift of negative 2
Yeah.
means everything is moved 2 to the right.
Okay.
Now since the period, which I erased, the period we figured out is 4, normally it would go from 0 to 4. But now it's going to go from 2 to 6. Because everything got moved 2 units
But it
over.
still ends.
Yeah, it ends 4 units later now. That's a good way to picture it. Now, the way the first sine wave worked was we went from 0 to pi over 2, and then we had a peak. Then at pi we had a 0. 3 pi over 2 we had a valley. And then at 2 pi we had a 0 again. That actually split a sine wave up into 4 parts. Middle to peak, peak to middle, middle to valley, valley to end. Those 4 parts are